burn your Josh Allen cards, burn your Joe Burrow cards, and take every penny that you have and invest it in Zach Wilson. Am I overreacting? These guys are about to set me and you straight now. Hello, sports card investors, and welcome to a very special Cards on the Table, because we are through 1 week of the NFL season. And guys, I'm ready to call it right now. This guy right here, Justin Herbert, don't even know who he is anymore. Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, your boy, you're 0-1, last place in the division, boy.
These are stand-up
Meanwhile,
displays,
look at
not
this.
slap-strongs.
Meanwhile, look at this. You got Brock Purdy, who
Dumpster
falls in
fire?
this category. You got Desmond Ritter, who falls
Mac
into that
Jones.
category. By the way, shout out stand-up displays for those amazing card stands. You can get all of those on their website, standupdisplays.co right now. Gentlemen, we are here today to talk about how football card collectors and investors should react after week one, because there's already been a ton of movement in the sports card market. We're seeing the price of certain cards drop 20% in a matter of days. Other cards are shooting to the moon. Teapot, Doug, help me make sense of all of this. What has week one taught you? I'll start with you, Teapot. What has it taught you to do or not do?
Rapid fire. I'm going to tell you what I believe in, what I'm waiting on, and what's already toast.
Okay.
I'm going to go fast. Lions, playoff bound, 11-6, 9-8 at the worst, 13-4
So
upside.
buy Jared Goff cards,
Lions,
you're saying.
Goff's money.
Okay.
Cowboys defense, very legit.
Yeah.
Their offense is going to be all about Pollard, not CeeDee Lamb, not Dak. It's Pollard show. Niners defense is even better, terrifying. They're my Super Bowl favorites right now. Josh Allen, not a bad quarterback. He is a risk taker. He's got to get that under control. Burrow's going to be fine. Jags have yet to warm up. Miami, freaky fast. Please, Tua, stay healthy.
Tua.
And do not count out Minnesota. I don't think they're Super Bowl contenders, but I do think they're a legit team still. Wait and see. Chiefs, they might be in trouble because their schedule is brutal. I mean brutal, very tough. When you look at the Lions and the Chiefs, two different stories with their schedules. Browns might win the AFC North only because of their defense, and that division just seems a little bit like they're struggling. I'm waiting on Jordan Love. I'm waiting on all the rookie QBs for good or for bad. And already toast, I think that we've seen Aaron Rodgers' last snap. Unfortunately, no pun intended on his Achilles. Daniel Jones and the Giants. Saquon, he's going to demand a trade midseason and end up on the Chiefs. The Bills are in major trouble because of their schedule. Justin Fields stinks. Jets are in trouble. Patriots will pull some upsets, but they are not contenders.
And Atlanta on pace to a 17-0 regular season.
Oh, boy.
Okay, Doug, so that's a lot of big opinions being thrown at. Make sense of this to me, though, from a card perspective. Those out there right now who are thinking about what cards do I buy, what cards do I sell coming off this week one of NFL results, what advice would you give? What are you seeing?
Well, I would say pump the brakes a little bit. It's very hard to interpret anything from the very first game of a season when a lot of these guys, these quarterbacks, didn't even play preseason snaps, right? So let's just not overreact on what we're seeing, unless, of course, some of this aligns with your off-season takes. Then take your victory laps. I said that I said all off-season long, Josh Allen is a turnover machine and you can't trust him. I'm right. But I was also very wrong on somebody like Justin Fields, who I thought was going to take a big step this year. And it's only been a game, but it's really obvious the Bears don't trust him in the slightest. So I was way off on that. I think I've called Jordan Love a terrible buy, and he didn't look that bad. So, I'll go ahead and get it out of the way early. I may have been really off on a couple of my assessments, but as long as Josh Allen is awful, then I'll be okay. So what you want to look at is people overreacting. That's what you want to look for. You want to look for people that are dumping Burrow for whatever reason, or things of that nature. You want to look for a guy who had an unusually good performance and try to take advantage of that if you've got cards to sell. But overall, pump the brakes. Don't freak out about week one. Let's play some football and see what happens. And barring a huge injury like Rodgers, just be patient.
I think this is good advice, right? So your players who saw already a big increase over the course of this week. You've got Brock Purdy, whose cards have shot up. You've got Jordan Love, his cards have shot up. Tua's cards have shot up. Those are three of the biggest gainers this week, right? There's others as well. I think you have to ask yourself, what are the next several weeks looking like for those players? For a guy like Brock Purdy, the 49ers may very well keep on winning. I mean, it would not surprise me if we get to the halfway point of the season and the 49ers are 8-0, 9-0. If that's the case, Purdy's cards still have considerable room to rise, in my opinion. Could the same be with Tua? Tua started last year incredibly
He looked
hot,
as good
right?
as he's ever looked if he can stay healthy.
And so I think a guy like Tua is reasonable. A guy like Jordan Love, I would pump the brakes on because of the fact that he's still so new. He's going to have growing pains. Yeah. And although the Packers looked great in week 1, they're going to run into the juggernaut that is the Atlanta Falcons this weekend. And it could be the end of Jordan Love.
They're going to run into the juggernaut in week 3, the Lions.
But in all seriousness, like a Jordan Love is bound to have some struggles at points this season. So I'd be a little weary about hopping on the Hawkeye after one game who hasn't already been proven. Some of those other guys, like Purdy, had last year's performances, Tua obviously as well. And so it'll be interesting to see. And I'm with you. Don't overreact to Burrow. Don't overreact to Josh Allen. No. The teams are good. They're going to be okay. If there's a buy low opportunity, snag it. It's sure going to be fun to watch, though. And I'm just excited about this NFL season. I'm also excited about the fact that Pristine Auction now has a brand new type of auction, their Elite Auction, a month-long auction featuring 100 of the rarest, most compelling items at no reserves, including a 1985 Michael Jordan Nike promo card. I love this card. I have one of these in my collection. BGS 9.5. I think it's such a cool, underappreciated Michael Jordan, early Michael Jordan card. Check that out on pristineauction.com. What do you have your eye on, Teapot?
The Sultan of SWAT, the Titan of Terror, the Colossus of Clout, the King of Crash, man, the Great Bambino, none other than Babe Ruth. 1948 Leaf, shout out Sandlot, greatest.
Oh, they got a 48 Leaf in that Elite Auction. That's
1948
nice.
Leaf, card number 3, and SGC won that striking portrait with the red background.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got to have one someday.
How about you, Doug?
So the Elite Auction is really cool. I mean, we've have their sports card auction that's Sunday to Sunday, but this Elite Auction isn't just sports cards. It's a little bit more all-encompassing of memorabilia. But I did find a 2020 Select Justin Herbert snake skin hiding in that Elite Auction. I'm not the world's biggest Herbert fan. I think he's really talented, but I am a fan of Select snake skin, so that one stood out to me for sure.
I already threw Herbert out over
You
my
did,
shoulder
yeah.
a minute ago.
But
all of these cards, plus more, are on pristineauction.com right now. And when you register at pristineauction.com, use registration code, promo code SCI. When you register with code SCI, you get $10 free in your account to use towards any of their auctions. Okay, guys, next topic today from your data dive this last weekend, a good data dive topic, NBA players ready to break out this season. And this is an important topic because not many people are thinking NBA yet.
That's right.
But it's not far around the corner, which means now is a great time to be thinking NBA and to be buying NBA cards for the savvy collector or investor or flipper out there in the audience. Take us through some of the guys you looked at, Teapot, and who you are liking this year.
This upcoming video this weekend is going to be expanding upon those overreactions from NFL, and I thought, like you said, perfect time before anybody's really thinking NBA to look at who might be flying under the radar. So this isn't who do I think are going to be the best players this season, it's who do I think are flying under the radar and could pop. And I think number one amongst those, and we just saw a really solid performance from him in the FIBA World Cup, is Mikal Bridges. He's very efficient, he's long, he can score at will, he does a little bit of everything, he's a two-way player, and he really broke out when he moved to the Nets last year. So he was my first pick. I looked at Desmond Bane, Cade Cunningham, who I just hope can be a top 20-ish player for the Pistons. Austin Reeves, who I don't think will be a superstar, but could be a really critical role player for the Lakers. And Jordan Poole, who's just in a new scene and probably will put up 60 shots a game. So I looked at those guys. I'd like to know what you guys think in terms of other players.
Yeah, Poole's an interesting pick. Obviously, he's going to a not as good team, but he's going to have the opportunity to basically run the team, run points.
Yeah. It's him and Kyle
probably,
Kuzma.
They're both probably going to score a lot. Yeah. They're both going to probably put up good numbers. It's an interesting thing in basketball, right? It's like what's better, the player being, the third or fourth or fifth player like Poole was on a good team with championship potential and aspiration, but his minutes can be somewhat limited by things going on there, or having the chance to go to a bad team, but being in a starring role and having the chance to put up incredible numbers. Ultimately, I think a player has to win championships in order for their cards to have long-term value.
Yeah,
but I think early in their career, and Poole's still early in his career, I think simply putting up big numbers is what catches people's attention.
Yeah, on a week by week basis, if you're looking at a short term move, something like that is really important. How are they performing? Not how is the team doing, but are they putting up big numbers? So I was looking at the list that T-Pop put out, and I like Bridges. I really like Cade. That's a guy that I've kind of gone in on, and fingers crossed that works out for me. Desmond Bane, not so much. I think you look at a guy like that, and nobody likes him. I don't think it really matters that much how good he is.
You don't think
on the
he's
court.
flashy enough? Is that the problem? Or
I think that everybody hates him. He's the most made fun of player. He's memed constantly. He's like right there with Draymond for a guy that just no one likes. So I just don't know what he could do to be valuable because people just don't like the guy. I wouldn't buy the cards no matter how good he is because I think he's, I just don't like him. So I think from that perspective, personality or persona matters when it's that negative, right? But I'm not taking a ton of risk with my NBA stuff, to be honest. I look at a list like this, and I do like some of it, but I'm sticking with, I've been buying Shea. I'm going to keep buying Shea. I've been buying Anthony Edwards. I really feel like soon Anthony Edwards could be the face of the NBA if he could get out of Minnesota.
he was who I shouted out as an existing superstar who I think is just here.
I mean, he had a great World Cup.
I think
Shea
he's
had
just,
a great World Cup.
Yeah, I think those guys are just on the cusp of big stuff, which they're very obvious picks. I'm not, I'm not saying anything too provocative there, but that's just what I'm looking at.
Those are obvious picks, but I am actually 100% in alignment with you on those picks. And although this is a very, not unknown breakout pick, but, Luka, his market has fallen so far. I recognize Dallas's potential, and no one's real sure about them. But you're talking about a top 5 NBA player. His cards are so down at this point. And I think if you're willing to scoop up Luka and play a little bit of a long game, look beyond just this season, this guy has MVP awards in his future at some point, right? He probably has championships in his future. It may not be with Dallas, but this guy's got 10 plus years of great prime career ahead of him.
Yeah.
Play the long game with Luka a little bit. Buy his cards while they're down where they are right now, in my opinion. We'll see how this shakes out. I have to show you guys this. I'm excited to share this. Check this out, guys. Take a quick look at this. These are from BCW Supplies. These are graded card bins. These are some of the slicker things that I've ever seen. That's the graded card bin. And then they also have the same type of product for raw cards. This thing holds 3,200 raw cards. Check this out.
Yeah,
this
it's 30.
This is real cool
nice.
here. Isn't this neat? This is really well put together. So that it actually can lock. You can open it up. This one here is this 1,600 count of raw cards. And you could put your raw cards, just put them right inside here. Easy to carry with a handle, easy to move around. And then they have these, so your cards don't fall down. They even have partitions, graded card partitions for raw cards for these things. I mean, it's slick what these things do. They're available in multiple colors, at least the 3,200 count is, and I think they got more colors of the other ones coming soon. This is cool stuff.
Yeah, I've got a lot of the cardboard ones, and they just fall apart when you move them too much. So very, very durable. Yeah, appreciate BCW Supplies sending this to us. And guys, these are available right now on bcwsupplies.com. And if you use promo code SCI at checkout, you're going to get 10% off this or anything on bcwsupplies.com. bcwsupplies.com. Okay, 2 more important topics for us to get into today, guys. Mike Trout. Yes.
There was some big breaking news recently that the Angels have said that if Mike Trout requests a trade, that they will look at trading Mike Trout. This is big news for the sports card hobby because Mike Trout is one of the most collected, the most sought after players of our generation when it comes to card collecting. Teapot, what do you make of this news? And more importantly, what impact could this have on his card prices if this actually comes to fruition?
Well, we remember Free Britney. And now it's free Mike Trout. Let's get him, there's an LA theme here. I think the way that this would play out, and I heard somebody else, I wish I could remember who to shout him out on Instagram, talking about they would think this would play out not with Mike Trout getting cranky and going public and bashing the Angels organization and everything. He's not that type of player. But him just saying, let's go have dinner. Let's talk about the way things have been and where we're going and ask them to do the right thing. And I think maybe that's what's already happened. Now, there's got to be some suitors out there for him just based on his name. If there is a trade to a team like maybe the Phillies, the Dodgers, the Giants, who have all been kind of rumored as front runners for that, I think a temporary rejuvenation of his card prices is almost a foregone conclusion. How much, I don't know. But the bigger thing is he's got to play. He absolutely has to play. This is a guy who had 71 WAR by the age of 27, and now 4 years later is only at 85, which is not something we are accustomed to seeing with Trout. So, that's still remarkable numbers, but he's got to be on the field. He has to be able to play. I was talking to some other guys recently. If there is one player in baseball who could benefit from a deep World Series run, it would be Trout. A lot of times in baseball that doesn't matter as much, but this is like the one thing, the dark cloud hanging over him, and it would be so awesome to just even see him in the postseason.
Yeah, no, I am with you. I would love to see that. I actually hope this goes through. I think it would give this sports card hobby a boost. Maybe it would even give Mike Trout kind of an emotional boost to start somewhere new. What if Trout and Ohtani go to the same team?
I did think about that. What if the Dodgers somehow swing a...
I mean, wouldn't that be wild?
I don't know.
Things can happen.
A lot of money.
Doug, I know you're not a huge baseball fan, Trout collector. That's not you as much, but you follow the other sports real closely. How does this maybe correlate to somebody in another sport?
Well, my thoughts really mirror Tyler's. I mean, I think there would be a temporary bump if he moved. It'd have to be to a competitive team, somebody who's going to make the playoffs, actually, and he's got to play. But, you can see this across other sports. We think the same thing about a guy like Damian Lillard, who's a super high performer but is trapped in Portland. And I just mentioned Anthony Edwards, a guy who I think could be the face of the NBA but needs to get out of Minnesota for that. You look at soccer, a guy like Erling Haaland gets out of Dortmund, goes to Manchester City and wins everything there and is a huge star. Our guy, Christian Pulisic, get him out of Chelsea. Now he's scoring goals for AC Milan and actually getting to play. But the key is getting to play, right? Yeah. And that's all it boils down to for me with Trout. Trade or no trade, the guy's got to play and play well.
I'll shout out your guy Towns. He's got to get a change of scenery at some point, I think.
I think Minnesota in general, maybe just not the vibe for anybody.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens this year. That's a good discussion. Another topic I wanted to talk about this week, reacting to the T206 Hannes Wagner sale that just occurred. If you haven't heard about this, you got to take note of what just happened. This is a big story in the sports card market because there was a restored version of that famous T206 Hannes Wagner card, which just sold at Mile High Auctions for $1.9 million. Now, why is this significant? Because the owner decided to get the card restored the same way a piece of art would be restored. Now, normally this is considered insane to do something. It's a no-no to do this in the sports card world. But in this case, the card had already been hand cut previously, so it was only ever going to grade authentic. And so the owner said, well, why not make the card look better visually? And we'll disclose that it was restored. And in fact, the PSA slab says on it, restored. Well, what this did is this gave the card enhanced eye appeal. And as a result of that, it sold for a ton of money.
Yeah.
What is your takeaway on this, Teapot? Is this the first step of kind of, the art collecting mindset, maybe infiltrating the card world a little bit, especially with these rare, historic, unique pieces?
Yeah, Mile High has really carved out a niche for themselves with the T206 Hannes Wagners. $1.9 million is nothing to bat an eye at. That is a huge milestone. And this is a topic that's been very buzzy over the last year, especially in recent months. And most notably, what comes to mind, I think, about this is something like Kurt's Card Care or Mr. Minty, people who have different techniques to restore. They're not altering the card, they're not recoloring the card, they're not trimming, they're not doing anything like that. It's sort of what's been described as that gray area. Fixing dents, using basically moisture and humidity to flatten wrinkles and to restore corners and do things like that. If it were me and I had the choice with really what is a historical artifact, a card of that caliber, to say, nah, give it to me kind of looking beat up and trashy, or use ethical, proven techniques from the art world to make it have a better eye appeal, I would choose the latter. And I think that really paid dividends for the person who opted to have that card restored.
I think a lot of people would say it's only ethical, though, if it's disclosed.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And in this case, it was. And in this case, it's on the PSA slab that this card was, in fact, restored.
Great point.
But I tend to agree with you. It raised the eye appeal of the card tremendously.
Yeah.
The card already wasn't, had some alteration to it. Seems to make sense to me. I don't know. What do you think about this, Doug?
I really like this story because we had this conversation some months back along the lines of what you were talking about with the Kurt's Card Care or the Minty. We talked about what is like an acceptable level of cleaning an ultra-modern card before grading. Can you use wax? Can you do this or that? And we talked about how it doesn't parallel other collectible markets. You can restore fine art, comic books, you can get pressed and you can get spine correction, but we don't have any of that forgiveness for sports cards. So with transparency in mind, this card doesn't have a grade on it. It just says authentic, and it specifically says restored. I think it's awesome. I really, really like it. Me personally, I think that'd be a great thing to have. If this card's only going to get a 1 or a 2, why not make it one of the best looking versions of it that you could muster, right? And again, as long as there's transparency, I've got no problem with it. I think it's actually a really cool move.
I agree. I liked it. The card looks absolutely beautiful. I think it makes sense for old historic cards, not modern stuff, not necessarily. But when you're dealing with there's such a crossover between a historic card like that and art. I mean, the same with a card like the 52 Mantle. Like that is a piece of art. That's like a piece of history, a piece of art. It has to be disclosed, but I'm happy to see it sold for this, and there's some collectors that agree that it's worthwhile to pursue. Guys, that's a lot today, but we want to hear from you. What topics do you want us to cover next week? Leave those in the YouTube comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, give us a subscribe, give us a like, and we'll see you next time. Take care.